Sunken Helike, the sunken city of Helike. You have probably heard the story of the sunken city of Atlantis, but in ancient Greece, there was another city that disappeared into the sea in a similar way, Helike. Ancient stories describe it as a rich coastal city. It was famous for its beautiful temple built for Poseidon, the god of the sea. It is said that one night, a huge disaster suddenly struck and the entire city disappeared into the sea, as if Poseidon's anger had wiped it off the earth. For centuries, local sailors also claimed that in calm waters, they could see old buildings and statues under the sea. Helike was located on the coast of the Gulf of Corinth, and then an amazing discovery was made. In 2001, researchers found the remains of a real ancient city buried under mud and sediment. They found building foundations, pottery, and coins. Geological evidence also pointed to a powerful earthquake. After the earthquake, the ground sank, allowing seawater to reach the city. This process is called soil liquefaction. During a powerful earthquake, the ground can briefly behave like a liquid, causing buildings and the ground itself to suddenly sink. So the sinking of Helike was not just a myth or an old legend. It was a real city that was buried under the sea by a real natural disaster. The Lernaean Hydra. The second of Hercules' 12 famous labors was to defeat the Hydra, a monster that lived in the swamps of Lerna. It was a terrifying, snake-like creature with many heads. But the real problem was that whenever Hercules cut off one head, two new heads would grow back in its place. This made the Hydra seem almost impossible to defeat. In the end, Hercules came up with a plan. Every time he cut off a head, he immediately burned the neck with fire so that new heads could not grow back. But here is the surprising part. There may have been a real event behind the story of the Hydra. The area of Lerna was known for its many underground water springs, which came up to the surface in different parts of the swamp. For ancient people, this could have been a serious problem. If they blocked one spring, underground water could build up pressure and come out somewhere else. Just like cutting off one head and seeing two new ones grow back. Because of this, some historians believe that the Hydra's many heads may have represented the many water springs in the area. And Hercules burning the necks after cutting off the heads may have been a reference to an ancient way of controlling water, using fire and baked clay to block the water channels. So, the Hydra may not have been a real monster at all. It may have been a mythical version of Lerna's wild and uncontrollable water springs. The river Styx. In Greek mythology, the Styx was a sacred river that flowed through the underworld. Even the gods were said to swear by it when making their strongest and most unbreakable promises. It was believed that the water was so dangerous that it could kill you. For centuries, people thought it was nothing more than a mythical river. But then, researchers began looking at a real river in Greece called Mavroneri. And this is where the story gets strange. The river flows down from the mountains, between limestone caves, and its water has long been said to have unusual chemical properties. Scientists have even suggested that certain bacteria found there could produce toxic compounds. Local legends even claim that the water was strong enough to damage metal. That claim may be exaggerated, but the water does have chemical properties that are not like normal water. And there is another frightening story connected to this river. Some ancient writers claimed that Alexander the Great may have been killed by drinking poisonous water from this very river. So, could Mavroneri have been the real river that inspired the legend of the Styx? Maybe. But if that is true, then the Greeks' mythical story may have been much closer to reality than we think. The Lotus-Eaters. In the Odyssey, Odysseus and his crew arrive at a mysterious land known as the land of the Lotus-Eaters. Some of his men eat the fruit of a strange plant called the lotus, and as soon as they eat it, they lose all desire to go back home. They forget their families, their responsibilities, and even their old lives. All they want is to stay in that place forever. Odysseus has to force them back to the ship. He even has to tie them up so they do not try to stay there again. For centuries, this story was seen as nothing more than a myth. But then, researchers found something interesting along the coast of North Africa that may be connected to the story. There, a fruit called the jujube can be found. Some ancient sources have also connected this fruit to the lotus fruit. The fruit is naturally sweet, and after it ferments, it may have mild, intoxicating effects. So it is possible that ancient sailors could have entered a strange state after eating the fruit. Instead of continuing their journey, they may have wanted to stay there. Maybe the lotus in the Odyssey was not a magical fruit after all. Maybe it was a real fruit that turned a real experience into a legendary story. Scylla. In the Odyssey, sailors face a terrifying monster named Scylla, who lived in a cave beside a narrow sea passage. She was said to have 6 heads, and each head had jaws like a bloodthirsty dog. Whenever a ship passed near her cave, Scylla would suddenly reach out with her long necks and grab sailors from the deck before they even had a chance to react. But there was another danger on the other side of the passage. It was Charybdis, a terrifying whirlpool that could pull an entire ship into the sea. The surprising part is that there may be a real place behind this story. The Strait of Messina, between Italy and Sicily, is a narrow sea passage. It is still known for its powerful and unpredictable currents, while dangerous rocks lie below the surface. For ancient sailors, passing through this area could have been extremely dangerous. The area also has deep sea caves where waves crashing against the rocks can create strange, barking-like sounds that can be heard from far away. Even more interesting, some sources connect the Greek name Scylla with words related to dogs or barking. That is why many historians believe that the dangerous waters, rocks, and mysterious sounds of the Strait of Messina may have come together to create the terrifying legend of Scylla. The magic of Circe. In the ancient story of the Odyssey, Circe was a witch who turned men who came to her island into pigs by giving them a special magical drink. When Odysseus and his crew arrived on the island, Circe used her magic on several of his men and turned them into pigs. But Odysseus was protected from the spell. A god had given him a special plant called moly. But the interesting part is that there may be some truth behind this story. When experts studied the plants found in the area, they discovered that some of them could have powerful effects on the human mind and perception. These included poisonous plants such as henbane, which can cause confusion, hallucinations, and unusual mental states. Because of this, some researchers believe that Circe's famous drink may not have been completely fictional. It may have been inspired by a mixture of natural plants. And then there is Odysseus's protective plant, moly. Some experts connect it to a white flower similar to the snowdrop. This plant contains a natural chemical that may help reduce some poisonous effects on the brain. So it is possible that Circe's magic was not really magic at all. Maybe it was a legendary version of what ancient people had learned by observing the poisonous and healing effects of plants. And so, behind a mythical story that is thousands of years old, there may be a surprising secret about natural medicines and poisonous plants. The Sirens. In the Odyssey, the Sirens were mysterious creatures whose voices were said to be so beautiful that sailors would lose control and jump into the sea. But if we look at the coastal areas described in these stories, with rocky islands and hidden narrow bays, an interesting possibility appears. In ancient times, large groups of monk seals lived in these same areas of the Mediterranean. These animals rest on rocks and make loud, strange sounds that can be heard from far away across the water. Just imagine an ancient sailor hearing a strange sound in the distance through the fog, something he had never heard before. It may have sounded human or mysterious to him. Some historians believe that these strange sounds may have inspired local stories, which slowly turned into the legend of the Sirens. And the saddest part? The animals that may have inspired these ancient stories are now extremely rare. The Mediterranean monk seal is one of the rarest marine mammals in the world, with only around 700 believed to remain in the wild. The Halcyon days. This is the story of Halcyon, who was so heartbroken after her husband died in a sea accident that she threw herself into the sea. The gods felt sorry for her suffering and turned both Halcyon and her husband into kingfisher birds, so they could be together again. It was said that Halcyon built her nest on the waves floating over the sea. Because of this, the god of the winds would calm the sea for about 2 weeks every winter, so she could safely lay her eggs. These peaceful days became known as the Halcyon days. But the surprising part is that there may be some truth behind this story. During winter, the Mediterranean can sometimes have a short period when the winds become unusually calm, even though this season is usually stormy. Ancient sailors must have noticed this natural pattern because these few calm days could give them a rare chance to travel safely across the dangerous sea. And since they did not know the scientific reason behind these wind patterns, they may have turned this natural event into the story of Halcyon. So the Halcyon days may not have been just a myth. They may have been a story inspired by something ancient people actually saw in nature. The golden apples. The 11th of Hercules' 12 labors was to bring back golden apples from a hidden garden at the far end of the world. The apples were protected by a terrifying, many-headed dragon named Ladon. It was said that anyone who ate these apples would live forever. But there is an interesting possibility hidden in this myth. Through ancient trade routes, people around the Mediterranean began to encounter fruits that were completely new to them, especially early citrus fruits that came from Asia. For people who had never seen oranges or similar fruits before, their golden color and unusual shape must have seemed very strange and special. And there was another important detail. Citrus fruits could stay fresh for much longer than many other fruits. The vitamin C they contained also gave people a reason to connect them with good health, because it helps prevent diseases like scurvy. So it is possible that the golden apples were not magical fruits at all. Maybe they were memories of a rare citrus fruit that seemed mysterious to people in the ancient world. And surprisingly, even today, the botanical fruit of citrus plants is called a Hesperidium, a name that comes from the Hesperides, the mythical garden from the same story.